What's going on, everybody? This is Misfit. Welcome back to OverTakes, and today we're continuing on our team previews. Today we're going to be talking about three teams. We are talking about the London Spitfire, the Los Angeles Gladiators, and the LA Valiant. We also have a little bit of news about the season, a couple of events and things like that I'm going to talk about really quick at the start, and we're going to dive into depth in some of these things after we get out of team previews and things like that. Probably an episode before we do our first week preview of the Overwatch League, which will be very shortly, guys. We're closing in. We got the beta dropping for Overwatch 2 on Tuesday. Hopefully everyone gets their code, their key to play the beta. That would be fantastic if we all got it, but who knows what's going to happen. Anyway, a lot of excitement going on. And then we got the league starting a week and a couple of days after that. A lot of fun. It's going to be amazing. Before we start talking about news and other things, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. All your support's greatly appreciated. All you guys have been around for a day or for 5 years now. Thank you very much. If you're new, just stopping by, thanks a lot. I do Overwatch League content 2 to 3 times a week. Some weeks, like this week coming up, going to have a lot more. We're getting the team previews amped up. I'm feeling a lot better. I was under the weather last week when I usually do my recording and stuff like that. And it was a throat thing, so, talking was not in the cards. That being said, let's talk about some news that we got. We had a little community update, and there was, of course, one bummer kind of thing. There is a COVID outbreak in China right now, and they will not be starting the East region until May 20th. They're going to condense all of the matches into 2 weeks. Good luck, boys. It's going to be rough. But they are going to play through all of them. They just need a couple of weeks, I guess, see what's going on and figure it out from there. We have gotten a couple other things. They've also announced a perks program. There's going to be drops in league tokens, sprays with new team mascots and stuff like that going on. All kinds of good stuff. There's also a couple of live events they announced, and that's going to be the Countdown Cup is going to be in Toronto, and the Kickoff Clash is going to be in Dallas. So 2 big live events for the regional, at least in the West. The two regional ones in the West, they're going to be live tournament format. It's going to be amazing. One in Dallas, one in Toronto. The first one in Dallas, obviously, the Kickoff Clash, and the Countdown Cup, which is the last, the regional tournament before the playoffs. So that's going to be live from Toronto. Super excited about all that. I'd love to be able to go to Toronto, but we'll see what happens as far as that goes. Anyway, we had that. I'm kind of bummed out about the East not starting, but it's understandable, and you got to be flexible, and you got to understand these things in this current era that we live in with COVID and outbreaks and things like that. I totally get it. And safety's paramount, as usual, as always. And I'm one of those people that believes in that. So do what you got to do to keep the guys safe. And, we'll, like I said, we'll talk more about that next week before we get into the matches. We'll talk about all of the schedule and how it's going to work and all that stuff. We're going to dive more in. Let's focus on the teams right now. We got 3 more teams up. We're talking London Spitfire, Los Angeles Gladiators, and the LA Valiant today. So let's start off with our first team, the London Spitfire. Okay, obviously, last year was terrible. There's no other way to slice it, no other way to put it. They tried to bring in the British Hurricane team, and it was not good. One of the worst teams in NA, 1 win out of 16 games. Obviously didn't do anything. It really failed to challenge pretty much anybody. Yeah, it was bad. I thought it would be okay. I didn't think they would be setting the world on fire. I thought it was the first step in like a rebuild, Western rebuild, and it was just, it went awry fast. So let's go over the roster and what they did. They let go of Ripa, Kelix, Malf, Hadi, and they brought Hadi back. Hybrid, Blase. So they pretty much got rid of everybody except for Sparker and Shax, which that's understandable. 2 young DPS players. You know that, and even before we got a look at any of the alpha with Overwatch 2, you knew what one less tank, DPS are going to be important. And these 2 guys are young and really good. Let's talk about the guys that they picked up. On DPS, In addition to Sparker and Shax, they added Backbone, one of the best European contenders, DPS players. Fantastic pickup, something that they need. DPS, obviously, very, very important. Projectile, so you're going to need a good projectile player. Obviously, the classics, Tracer, Genji, Echo, Pharah. I doubt he's playing Tracer on this team, so he can focus on Genji's, Echoes, Pharah, Hanzo, whatever you need him to do. And then, we have Shax, who played really well with the Valiant. Didn't set the world on fire, but, this team was terrible last year, so I don't necessarily blame him. Hard hit scan, obviously. Tracer is fantastic. Your Widowmaker, Cassidy. He does play some Hanzo and Reaper type heroes as well. So, and those guys are going to be important, whatever you can run. Sparker obviously came in later in the year. They looked a lot better when he did. I'm sorry, I called Shax the hard hit scan. Sparker's your hard hit scan guy with the Tracer, and I think he'll be your Tracer guy. Depends. They have 3 guys that can play Tracer, so that's a bonus. So if you get any situations where you have to run various different comps and you want different guys in, they're all good. I would go with Sparker or Shax. I really haven't seen too much of Backbone on Tracer. I did not. I know he's good though. I've heard a lot of things about him. So, but with him, you also get your Ashe, your Cassidy, that kind of stuff. Widowmaker. They're set on DPS. I think their DPS looks decent. There is a problem. We're going to go over the supports last, actually. They brought back Hadi, who was mediocre at best last year, in my opinion. He had moments where he kind of popped off, but overall, the team was a mess. So it's hard to gauge, other than I really can't give him the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, they like something. He came back. So maybe this is his redemption arc. Plays your main tank type of guys. Ryan, Ball, Winston, that kind of stuff. Poco joins the team. Obviously, we know what Poco can do. Off tank, he's good, very good, but we haven't seen really much of him in the last year. He had the visa issues, and he got spot play the year before with Fury. He did fill in some here and there, and he looked like Poco. He still looked good, but I'm not thrilled about this tank line. Now, the biggest problem, and we're going to talk about it now. Now, they went out and got Provide. Good player, bad dude. Did bad things off the team, not talking about it. And I'm not going to say I told you so, because this was a different shift for that guy. The only support they have is Admiral, and yeah, he's a main support. They're obviously looking for somebody to fill that gap. I haven't heard anything yet. I'm recording today. It's Sunday, 24th, so I haven't heard anything yet. This is a big problem for a team that has gotten a better roster, but not as good as everybody else in NA, bar three teams, maybe 3 to 4. I think they're in a lot of trouble. They have to get and at this point, getting a Western flex support that's decent and not just a gap filler, a guy from contenders that you can just throw in there, it's going to be a big problem. A really big problem, I think. I don't know what goes on with organizations and things like that. So I don't know what they're looking at, what they want, but they're going to have to grab somebody, because what are you going to have? Are you going to just potentially take a Shax or a Sparker and say, hey, learn Zenyatta or Ana? I don't understand. So I know they're working on it, but you're getting down to the wire here. You got a week left. They're probably trialing people like crazy. I don't really expect much from this team. I'm not going to lie. Now, I do like what they did, and they went out and got Christopher, who is a fantastic coach. Obviously, was with Philadelphia for the last few years, and he learned a lot, did a lot of good things too there. They played really well when he was there. I think this is a good chance for Christopher to show what he's made of and come out and take this team that pretty much nobody thinks can do anything and maybe get them to win a few games. Are they going to win a lot? Probably not. I see them. I'm going to dive into that portion. I'm going NA with 13 teams. We're talking bottom 3. Maybe if Christopher works some magic here and metas and things go better than expected. They get a decent flex support in there, and they work something out, and they can maybe punch up into, I would say, 8 would be the highest I would expect them right now. This could change. And as far as the league, the same thing, bottom 4, 5 teams, I think they're better maybe than a couple of teams in APAC, maybe not. I don't know. We'll talk about one of the other teams later. They kind of got a little bit better, and I think one-on-one, I think they would beat this team, but that's a story for a different day. We probably will not see that come to fruition with the way the tournament cycles work and all that. But, yeah, unfortunately, these guys are all awesome dudes, too. I love the Poco. I like Sparker, Shax. What little I've seen of Backbone, these guys look they could do something, but I don't think in the current state of North America in the Overwatch League 2022, they're going to be much better than they were last year. I think they could squeak out a couple more wins. There's more games. So I think that's doable. That's my thoughts on London. Let's dive into the next team who has way higher expectations than the London Spitfire did by far. Let's talk LA Gladiators. All right, Gladiators fans, here we go with the Gladiators talk. Is this the year? Question mark. Every year. You're that team in this league. Are they going to put it together? Are they going to take over and do what everyone wants them to do, expects them to do? I don't know, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. Now, let's talk about what they have done. All right, they've let go. They kept most of their roster intact. They got rid of Moth, Birdrain, Muse, and Mirror. They're definitely not going budget on this. So those are the guys that they lost. Let's talk about their current roster. Let's talk tanks. They got Reiner. Obviously, contenders played on American Tornado, Redbird Esports, etc., and what have you. Very, very good main tank. I have watched this dude play, and I think this is a great pickup for them. I think it's another cycle of tank for them. They seem to always have get a new main tank in. It seems to be a problem. I think this guy, though, I think this is going to be what they need. A young guy, very good main tank player. He covers your ball, all of the main tank stuff from Ryan. Obviously, let's look at his name. Ryan, Winston, Ball, Orisa. I mean, obviously the old iteration of Orisa, not the new one. Probably can play that too. And if he's hyper aggressive, like I perceive him to be, I think this guy's going to be outstanding this year. Now, you pair him with Space. He will have all of your off-tank guys covered. We know this. We know Space is great. I think this is a big year for him. He stepped up last year. I was critical of him early on, saying, where's Space? What's Space doing? And you know what? He stepped up and took a leadership role on that team more so than he has in the past. And he was the fuel that drove them as far as they got in the playoffs and stuff. So I really respect what he did last year, and I think he's going to be phenomenal in this iteration of the game, I think. I think this is something that he can do really well, especially on his signature heroes like Diva, Sigma, I think he can do really well on. Then plus he's good on Hog, Zarya. You're set. Your tank line is phenomenal. Yeah, all right. You could say rookie in there, so temper the expectations a little bit. But tank line is great. Let's talk supports. And yeah, also great is their support line. Shu, MVP candidate. Skewed last year, best Brigitte in the league. Probably best Brigitte player that I've seen outside of the GOATS bullshit. There's a couple of guys that played it in GOATS that were a different level, different style of Brig, but still, Skewed, fantastic on that. And then you bring in Funny Astro. Now, if any of the talk about the way Overwatch 2 is being played with fucking Lucio, Jesus Christ, this guy is going to fucking own. I want to see him in this new iteration because of the talk of your solo, everything's kind of solo-ish. And as a aggressive Lucio player, this guy is going to be phenomenal. I can't wait to see this. I want to see this in action. I think Funny Astro could be one of the better pickups that was made. He did leave Philly, and there could be a myriad of reasons for that, but who knows. but he's playing with the Glads now, and I just can't wait to see him out there. He is one of the best Lucios out there, so I want to see him do that, because watching him and Alarm play together was phenomenal. I unfortunately, we can't see that anymore, but him and Shu, or him and Skewed if necessary, oh my god, fantastic. Then let's move to DPS. We got Kevster, Ons, and Patty Pan makes a return to Overwatch after owning in Valiant. This dude is sick. I don't know what his hero pool is going to be like, but early days of Overwatch, when he was a freaking kid, he was owning stuff. And that was more like what we're going to see now without Orisa and fucking Sigma and 17 barriers and sim walls and all kinds of crap to shoot through. This dude was amazing. And just watching him back then play that. And then he's also got a Doomfist, so in case you need him to play Doom on tank, you can have him do that. You know, he's got the Tracer Widowmaker. He doesn't need to, we don't really need to worry about Tracer too much. But his projectiles, obviously Genji, Pharah, you got a bunch of good hero, he's got a good hero pool, a bunch of things covered. Kevster, I mean, another MVP candidate from this team in my book. Rollstar, phenomenal, probably one of the best Western, if not the best Western DPS player. He has some crossover with Patty Pan, but I think you're going to have him play Tracer, and if you have Tracer Genji, look out, because that's going to be good. I keep saying Tracer Genji, because Genji doesn't have barriers, guys. And a lot of the healing and stuff like that is different now. I think Tracer Genji is going to come back. Maybe it's what I want, but look out for that. And then throw Ons in there, who's obviously going to be your hard hit scan dude. Covering Widowmaker, Ashe, Cassidy. Obviously, Widowmaker and Ashe are the two heroes that he just pops the fuck off on. And if we get into any kind of sniper meta, look out. There's a little bit of a question between maybe, I'll give you Ons and Patapan, just because Ons didn't have that great of a year last year, but they didn't really use him, and the heroes that he played really weren't viable as much. I mean, they threw him in on Sombra sometimes, but he's not a Sombra guy. It's okay. I'm not worried about that. I think Ons is there for if you get Tracer Cassidy, or it could be map dependent too. You're playing Havana, who if you got long sight lines and literally no barriers on that map, you're gonna play Ons, right? I mean, that's easy to say. Patapan, don't know what he can do, but the dude is a gamer. He's that guy. Oh, I picked the controller up or the mouse or whatever, and he's just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take over Valorant. Yeah, okay, I'll take over Overwatch. I'll leave that, come back. Sure, why not? I'm not worried as much. But if you want to have a devil's advocate thing on there, sure. Patapan and Ons are kind of the questions on this team. The rest of it, I have no qualms about it. Maybe Reiner because he's young. Okay, give me that. But it's a new game. That's the thing. He's not coming into some group up, team up meta that's been forged while he was in Contenders playing something different. Everybody's on the same page now. Now, they also obviously had a coaching change. They brought in Face and Unter. Obviously, I talked tons about Unter last year about what he did. Face is basically stepping up into the role. We're going to see what these guys can do. I mean, Unter's fantastic. You give him these tools. Holy shit, boy. Just him and Face working together. I mean, he's been there for a couple of years. He kind of knows the players, knows the system. He knows all the important stuff that he needs to know with this team. I got to go with this team. I do not see them. This is a Dallas thing for me. They're going to be fighting with Dallas, I think. I see them on the top of NA, top of the league with this roster in this iteration of the game. And like I said, if certain things play out like they have been, this team is set. They'll be phenomenal. I just cannot wait to see this team go out there. I can't express how much I like this team this year. I usually don't. I pump the brakes on the Gladiators every year because they're the Gladiators, but not this year. This year, I think their expectations should be high. And it's not unreasonable to see them in pretty much every tournament and potentially winning these tournaments, especially the regional ones for sure. I think they're going to be battling with your Dallases, your Atlantas, potentially Houstons, teams like that. And then when you get into the internationals, they'll give Shanghai and Seoul and Chengdu, potentially Hangzhou. They'll give those teams battles too and potentially beat them. I think this team is that good. All right, so that is my take on the LA Gladiators. Let's move on to the LA Valiant. Well, the kind of LA Valiant. The Valiant, or as some people like to call them, the Beijing Bears. Whatever you want to call them, the Valiant. Let's talk about them. Last year was a travesty. We knew what happened there. They dumped their Western roster. They picked up a makeshift Chinese roster and really just failed almost as bad, if not as bad, as the 2018 Shanghai Dragons, except for they didn't have as many games, so they couldn't hit that record, so to speak. It was just not good across the board. We're not even going to talk about that team. It was hot garbage. We all know winning a map was like a miracle with that team. Now let's talk about the new team. They let go of everybody. Now, here we are. They signed a couple people in the last few days as well, and we'll get to them in a minute. But here's what we got. Let's talk DPS. We have 4 DPS players on this team. We have Dia, who finally gets a shot back at the Overwatch League. Gave up a chance last year to play for the hot garbage Valiant and decided to come into this iteration because it does look a lot better. We have Innovation and Becky. They did a lot of raiding from Team CC, which is no surprise to you if you realize their coach is No Hill, who coached Team CC for the last couple of years and is kind of a coaching prodigy. Let's be honest. They did some good things in Korean Contenders. I mean, they racked some people up. They weren't terrible, and he's a really good coach. So we'll see what we have. And Dia was one of his disciples on that team. Dia deserves another chance. I said it all last year. I wanted to see Guangzhou pick him up, for Christ's sake. They could have used him. Hangzhou could have used him. But here he is. He's now on the Valiant. Innovation and Becky, Team CC. Innovation's going to be kind of your hard hit scan dude with a little bit of wackiness. And, he plays a little May, Tracer, Sombra, those kind of things, and with Widowmaker and Cassidy. But, he's a sort of a hyper flex, but let's not get too crazy with that. He can flex on a different stuff. And then you got Becky, who does Tracer, Doomfist, and he plays a little bit of May and does some other stuff too. So, and then they just signed in the last week, Izhan, also with Team CC. He's also a hit scan guy. He does Tracer, Ash, your hard hit scans, as well as Tracer. Widow, Ash, Cassidy, does that kind of thing. And Dia is that guy too. They're just looking for, I think they're looking for some rotation here. Some of these teams are looking, maybe we get a double hit scan. We're going to need 2 guys. It depends. It's going to be some of the stuff that happens normally in Overwatch 2 or in esports in general, like different regions pick up different things. I mean, if you guys remember, China was, they were on the forefront of the ball thing. They played, weird shit. They did some of that May Reaper stuff before other people did. They were running Doomfist and Wrecking Ball and all kinds of crap. So we could have scenarios with that where they just meta develops on the east side, and they want double hit scan. Okay, that's fine. Coldest, he didn't really get a chance with Hangzhou, and he was highly touted when he came out of Contenders, the next great flex support. And, he didn't really get to show what he could do with Hangzhou. I don't know if it was the team, if it was him. They were mismanaged to hell, so it could even be that. So I'm glad he gets a second chance. Langsa, great support. Been on Team Chaser. He was on Chengdu for a little bit back in 2020. And, there was a lot of talk about him being the next big thing and stuff like that. I feel like the Valiant are giving some of these guys, a lot of them, a second chance. And, some of them deserve it. Let's be honest. Dia, Langsa, Coldest. Yeah, they're decent players. They were at one point, and they could very well step up and be that again. Like some of the other guys, I'm not going to lie. I don't know a ton about them. I do know Sasson is their only tank, and that frightens the fuck out of me. Not that he's bad, but he was okay to middling with the Hangzhou Spark. He wasn't exactly the greatest off tank. Did he have moments where he was really good? Yeah. But he's their only tank on this roster as we speak right now. That's very concerning. Can you work around it? Probably. But it frightens me a lot. I can't say it enough. And I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying that, obviously, compared to last year, he's better than whatever the fuck they had then. He does have Overwatch League experience, I'll give him that. And, you know, maybe they saw something in him that I don't see in the iteration of Overwatch 2, and they decided to bring him in. Let's go over what I think about this team. I think they're better than last year, by leaps and bounds. I think this team has a great roster. I think they can do a lot. The unfortunate thing is I think they're going to be in the same spot. Maybe if Guangzhou fails miserably, they move into 6th. I do think they'll give these teams fits, and I think they'll win more games, meaning at least one. Well, they'll win more than one, but you know what I mean. I think this team can do some stuff. They're way more equipped to play Overwatch in Owl, that is, than that team that was before. And for all accounts that I've heard of No Hill, he's a genius. I saw, I don't know if it was, I think it was on Plat Chat or something like that. Dia posted something where he woke up in the middle of the night, coached somebody, went back to bed because he had some kind of dream or something like that about being inspiring. So what is that? That's a dedicated dude right there. So I think he could coach them up a little bit. Is there a world where I could see them finishing above 6th? Not higher than 5th. Not with Sasson as your only tank. I'm going to just throw that out there. And from some of the accounts that people have, you know, there's some rush stuff going on. Is he going to be able to pick up Reinhardt? Can he play Doomfist? Can he play some of these other things besides some of the off tanks? You know, Wrecking Ball obviously is going to be a decent pick. It's hard to say what's going to happen, but my biggest qualm with this team right there is Sasson. And it's not just him by himself. Now, if it was a main tank and Sasson, I might be a little bit more apt to not sound like totally trashing the dude. I'm not trashing his skill. I just don't think he's going to cut it as the only dude. And I also don't think in a realm where you have Gaga, Fate, Void, the list goes on. You can Gushway. There's a lot of guys. Is he going to be able to hold up to some of those guys' standards? Depending on how Overwatch 2 plays out, too. My overall thought on this team is, unfortunately, towards the bottom of APAC. Overall, I think they could finish higher overall, like in the 20. I see them better than at least 4 or 5 other teams in NA. At least 4. But I don't consider them like a playoff contender or anything like that. I think they're building something here. And if No Hill can work a little magic, I think they might be able to make some noise here and there. Surprise a couple teams. That's about it. So that's my thoughts on the Valiant. And that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Stay tuned, because I'll have up in the next couple of days here. Probably going to have... I'm just going to keep firing these out. So we are going to have our next 3. The New York Excelsior, the Paris Eternal, and the Philadelphia Fusion. And we'll have that on the next episode. Thanks a lot for all your support. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. I really do mean that, guys. And if you're new and you made it all the way through, thank you very much for stopping by. If you hit a like, hit a subscribe, do the YouTube jazz, that'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. This is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody stay safe, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you on the next one.